Wolfenstein 3D is a first-person shooter, but I'm sure everyone watching this video knew that. The game was released on May 5th, 1992 for DOS. Even though the game was distributed by Apogee Software, it was actually developed by id Software. Yep, the ones behind Doom. In this video we'll be taking a look at many official ports and also quite a few unofficial ports. Not everything will be covered as there just isn't time for that. Did you know that Wolfenstein 3D was inspired by Moose Software's video game Castle Wolfenstein from 1981 and is the third installment in the Wolfenstein series? In Wolfenstein 3D, the player assumes the role of an Allied spy during World War II as he escapes from the Nazi German prison known as Castle Wolfenstein. The player traverses each of the game's levels to find an elevator to the next or kill a final boss, fighting Nazi soldiers, dogs and other enemies with knives and a variety of guns. The first port we're going to take a look at came out in 1994 and it's for the Atari Jaguar. The programmers have done Jag owners proud with a fully featured port looking and sounding better than the original in my opinion. The gameplay is good too, with everything working smoothly on the joypad. The Archimedes should have been the UK's #1 home computer of the late 80s to early 90s. Just look at how well it handles Wolfenstein 3D. In fact, it could handle so many games better than its rivals. Sadly, the system was too expensive. The Super Famicom or SNES version is pretty poor compared to many other versions out there. Not only is it heavily censored, but it's also extremely blocky. Anything not directly up against the camera is just a mess of pixels. It really is impossible to understand what anything is in the distance. Even when this was released, it wasn't really a looker. Still, despite the horrid looks, wimpy music and slower gameplay, it does control reasonably well and does run smoothly.
Stop! Halt! Stop! Oh! 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 Stop! Oh! Stop! Stop! Oh! Oh!
Unlike the SNES version, the Game Boy Advance port is based directly on the original DOS version. This means the blood is back, along with the German voice and the Nazi images. The game is also a little cleaner looking than the SNES version, but still can't be called a clean looking game. Saying that, if you're playing this on a real Game Boy Advance, you won't really notice the pixelation that much. Wolfenstein 3D also made its way over to the Japanese home computers of the time. This NEC PC98 port is very similar to the DOS original. Sadly, I couldn't get the controls to work, so we're stuck watching the demo. But at least we can see it in action. Wolfenstein 3D also got an official port to the 3DO, and it's a great one. Developed by Jaguar, they've not only given us a very clean looking version of Wolfenstein, but one that has a killer soundtrack and also includes the bonus Escape from Castle Wolfenstein. Now let's take a look at some unofficial ports of Wolfenstein 3D. There are many out there, such as for the Amiga, Atari ST, Commodore 64 and Game Boy Color, but I'm not going to cover those ones because they all require some extra memory or some updated hardware or even a more powerful system to the base machine to run. I'm more interested in versions running on stock hardware without extras such as this Mega Drive version. So far this version is not complete, but what is here is looking very good. Graphically it is much better than the SNES version and also comes with various filter options, although they're not really that impressive. The game is based upon the DOS original and sounds like it too. Playability is also rather good. It can be a little tricky moving around with the D-pad at times, but I can see it becoming easier with practice. Overall, not a bad effort. Here's a very early demo for the Atari Lynx. At the moment the game is looking rather bad, but it does run smoothly. There doesn't seem to be much AI programmed in yet, and for some reason you start off with no gun, which is odd. This is bloody amazing. What you're seeing here is a game called Wolfenstein 2004, running on a base ZX Spectrum 128. No fancy hardware extras or anything. All is running on a stock system. Yes, that also includes the music. Sure, the play window is small, although you can make it bigger at the expense of frame rate, but just sit back and think what people would have thought if they saw this running on their Spectrum in the mid-80s. It would have been mind-blowing. Let's take a look at all those versions of Wolfenstein 3D running side by side.